moms.
Hey, daughters.
Welcome to The Juggle is Real,
A mom and daughter show
about parenting and mental health.
for moms and teens.
And so what did we do? How long has it been? What episode are we on?
27.
We're on episode 27 ? Because we have taken a few weeks off. And here's what I want to say. We have been lifing it. I mean, it is called The Juggle is Real show. So if you've been with us from the beginning, you know that our last episode that was a few weeks ago, we decided to transition into really just focusing on building a generational wealth. And I did open up a custodial account for Sabrina. But before we do that, I really thought it would be just using my own lifing, my own life experiences to be really smart about it, because I don't want you just to jump into the stock market without really understanding how the circulation of money really can impact your emotions, which is why I really wanted to move into this part of our podcast, okay, and into the show. And so if you're new, welcome to the show. Again, this is a show about parenting and mental health. We started the show about us holding each other accountable to having those tough conversations that are tough to have when you have certain circumstances that you feel really uncomfortable having. And then I think often in life, and not often for us, what we find is that life gets in the way. We just start, in the way that our world moves, our life moves, is that we have a lot of responsibilities. We have a lot of things on our schedule, and it's easy to not do the things that we really need to do, that we really need to prioritize, because we just get lost in the juggle. And it has worked, right? But here's what's happened. We got lost in the trap of our schedules. So we did go away for spring break. I ran the Paris Marathon. Sabrina was away. She's been studying for a lot of her exams as it is towards the end of the year. And I did notice that we were starting to have a little bit more of those kind of situations, like those situations that came up from the beginning, whether it was borrowing things without asking to borrow, some of those similar conversations that we've talked about in the past. But again, what happens when we don't have those conversations is that they stay stored in our system and we can build resentment through it, right? And yeah, we're back here again. And what do you have to say about that, Sabrina?
I think the break was good. I needed time to study and then get back into my soccer season.
Your soccer season?
Yeah.
And then what?
I don't know.
Well, can I just ask you about that situation when I was just mentioning what happened last week? Did you notice a little bit of a tension that was building between us? Yeah. And then, so how would it just go away?
No.
Were you waiting for me?
No.
Huh? So what was the situation? I mean, you don't have to go into details, but how was our communication?
Not good. When I took some food.
I know it sounds super silly, but these are the kinds of conversations where, remember back those few episodes ago, it was like I reached into my drawer and I tried to find some shorts or something, and it's gone. And it's not so much about the shorts, but it has to do with me feeling like I'm always rushed, having to find things, and you not asking to borrow it. It leads to disrespect. We talk about it and blah, blah, blah. It happens again. And then it happened again with these Lululemon bras, right? And these Viore bras, right? And it sounds super petty, but for me, how it translates to me is, when were you part of that conversation a few months ago? And two, where is sort of the respect again? And honestly, I'm just going to say here, and I do want to leave it at this, hopefully, is that I almost resent feeling like mommy dearest. You know what I mean? I almost resent feeling like I'm being that kind of mom. And do you see me as that kind of mom? I'm just curious. Not really, yeah. And
You're a pretty chill guy.
I'm a pretty chill guy. But I do feel like when I have these conversations with some other moms and stuff, part of the frustration is the resentment and having to even be put in a situation where you kind of know you're a cool mom, but then when you're put in a situation, kind of scratching your head, and here's that word where you're kind of feeling like you're just gaslit in a way. What? No, okay. And I will say, so having these conversations in a way that you can bring humor to it is a way, however it needs to, whatever will resolve from it. I feel like as long as you start to release it in a way, whether it's through humor or maybe some moms are just more direct more than me. And it's something that I have to learn. But when I feel like I hold a resentment, I hold it. It does feel kind of grudgy, and it's just really learning that part of your personality. We learned that about each other. So what I wanted to talk about today and how to bring this into this generational wealth too was really learning about our money personality. We've kind of talked about that again, but I thought it would be really good to go into that before we really start going into stocks, okay? But before I wanted to do that, Sabrina invited me to go to her econ class yesterday. Now, I'm not that cool of a mom because I did think that, I just said, like, I do feel like I'm a pretty chill mom. But I'm not that cool of a mom that she invited me into her econ class because I'm cool, but she did invite me in because she did have an incentive, which was...
If I brought in a parent, then I would get a 100 off the next.
Yeah, and I said, so I got suckered in and I went, but I will say...
I didn't need it, though.
Of course you didn't. Of course you did.
I have 103.
Amazing. Amazing. You don't even have to learn anything anymore. No, but so what did you think about me coming into the econ class? It was what? Why was I invited in?
You have a pretty cool job.
But it was what? Set the stage for the audience. So again, we are on YouTube. And this is obviously on all of the podcast platforms, but it is kind of neat to watch our
body language.
But not so much of the way we look right now, both in sweats and sweatshirts, just really showing we do live our life. Do
you look chuzz, Mom?
What's the word?
Chuzz.
What is that? Spell it.
C-H-U-Z-Z.
I look chuzz? What does that mean? It doesn't
ugly.
sound... I look ugly. Yeah, we are not put together. But anyways, we just come in here with all the integrity to share with you our experience to support other moms and teens to having these conversations. And also, again, here to really grow holistically and in generational wealth. So, okay, Sabrina, share with the audience why I was invited to Brian's econ class.
Well, the week before we talked about entrepreneurship and then just like jobs in general and what we'd be interested in. So my teacher asked if parents wanted to come in for a career week. And then he said about the test. I was like, sure, why not?
So I was suckered in when she sent me a text last week. It was like, hey, Mom, do you want to come into econ class and talk about your career? And I said, which one? I said, day trading, nurse anesthesia, my holistic wellness consulting business. And you said all. And I was like thinking I was all cool before I realized she really just wanted her 100%.
Wait, I asked you before I knew.
I know. I'm kidding. I'm just giving you a hard time. But what did transpire? Like, so when I went and I did say to the students, the first thing I said was, so Sabrina is in the tail end of 10th grade, right? And so 11th grade is a big year for you guys because there's a lot of pressure that starts to surface with what?
Work. Wait, what?
In 11th grade. What happens in 11th grade?
College. College interest, and then a lot more work.
A lot more work. Yeah, with school and getting your grades to get into the colleges of your choice, right? And also when picking colleges, what do you think happens? It's like you pick colleges according to what? Interest, right? And there's a lot of pressure. I mean, I even see that with Sabrina's older brother who just finished his first year at Virginia Tech. And how amazing that is. But I would say with Noah, it seems... I wouldn't say easy. I think it was a little more obvious with Noah what he wanted to do because he was really into the arts and then he's into math, right? And then he really wanted to be a pilot. But with you, you've said you were so driven. I know that you just really wanted to make big bucks and be in some kind of lawyer. I forget what it was. Some mean lawyer.
No.
Some argumentative lawyer. I'm kidding. But that's kind of changed. There's not even so much change. You didn't sound really convinced. But anyway, so all this to say is that, so when I went in and I said to the students, do you remember what the first question I said?
Does everyone know what they want to do? They're all there.
Raise your hand for anybody who knows what they want to be. How many are in your class?
3, 7.
She's so good at math, you guys.
11.
Okay. So 20-ish? Less than 20?
Yeah.
Okay. But how many people raise their hand?
10.
Really? Whose hands did I miss? Anyways, it didn't seem like that many. Okay. And then I said, what was the second question?
What is it?
Do you remember? This is how dynamic of a speaker I was at this class. So I said, how many people who know of the career that they want, that they are interested in can see themselves doing it for the rest of their life,
Mm.
right? And I don't think that many people did.
It's like 2 or 3.
Yeah. Here's what I would say. I would probably say that would be maybe it wasn't a question that they expected. And really why I said this, because I came in there trying to leave with you don't have to just pick one career. And in the one career that you pick, you can keep evolving in, right?
Mhm.
And that's something that I did is I've always had this job as a nurse anesthetist, but then I basically said that learning about a side hustle really can serve you, right? And I think right now you are seeing it because when we talked about the market volatility in the last episode, what did I talk about with the market volatility? You don't remember?
No.
Do you know why there was a market volatility? Okay. Well, with the change of administration,
Oh, yeah.
right? And then also with the talk of the fancy word of taxes of tariffs,
Mhm.
right? And how that was impacting everybody globally. The change of the administration with Trump bringing in Elon Musk,
Mhm.
remember? And there was talk about him creating or really the Doge and how people were coming in and eliminating jobs, bringing in a lot of scarcity about people keeping their jobs,
Mhm.
right? And since, this new administration started, there's been a talk of a recession, right? And I think it's really good for you to see because what you've lived through, Sabrina, so far, and what you can remember is why would you, when we think about a career and having perhaps what I was trying to give insight to in your class was to having multiple streams of income, because what have you seen in what happened in 2020?
COVID.
The pandemic,
Uh-huh.
right? And then what's happening now? So with all the tariffs and,
Mhm.
and this recession and this inflation and all of this. So you're seeing,
Sorry.
so what are you experiencing?
Stock market crash.
No, but like a lot
Oh,
of,
is it?
okay, with emotions is a lot of fear.
Mhm.
Because why do people feel fear?
Because they're not making enough money.
They're not making enough money. But because of what? So that they're
Lose
not,
their job.
yeah. Let me just say this because there's uncertainty.
Mhm.
Right. And so remember what I said back to the beginning with our nervous system is that when we don't feel safe with being able to control a situation, we react and it creates a lot of fear. And this fear, as you can see, is happening. Right. So what I was trying to present, and it doesn't mean that I don't feel fear,
Mhm.
like, even since when we did the show, Sabrina, when we did the show, April 7th, the market was the lowest. Right.
Mhm.
And then since then, it has bounced back up. But then it's volatile in the sense it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down.
Mhm.
This market right now has seen the most volatile times that we've known. And it also means it can happen again, which is why what I'm trying to do when I talk about how to build generational wealth is really how for us to build a sense of security within, period, within. So you come into every situation feeling empowered, regardless of the situation, because at times there are going to be times where you feel threatened. Okay. And so that's what I wanted to share. So before we even go into you talking about how you have options, this is a word that I really want you to know in the stock market is there something called options. You do have options, but before you have options, I really want you to understand how you can really understand yourself better through understanding your personality and how you spend money. Okay, this is what I want to leave the audience with because the quote that I want to share with you is you know who Warren Buffett is? Okay, so Warren Buffett, he's a billionaire, right? And he is, I would say, one of the greatest investors who in our time that we really admire. And one of his quotes is the best investment that you can make is in yourself, right? And that includes learning, studying, and yes, really learning by experience too. And so by learning with the stock market is just a really quick way of how to work with your emotions. Because already, Sabrina, I have dealt with fear. I've dealt with scarcity. I've dealt
Mm-hmm.
with greed. I've dealt with elation and happiness. And that's kind of crazy. And then you go through guilt that something like money can do this to you. But this is why and I don't know how you feel about that. I'm just sharing this with you because it is a really quick way to really learn about your personality and really learn a way about how to regulate your nervous system and truly how to feel empowered so you start to really work with yourself so you don't have that attachment. There's something that just happens with money. Right. And it's like when you said you got upset when your friends take money from you. It's like when I get upset with you for taking my jog bras or whatever, there's a sense of attachment. And working with attachment is a framework, is a instrument, is a vehicle, is a vessel for us to really learn to grow. So what I wanted to lead with today is how to really understand the way about our money. And I actually have this in our book, right? My goodness, Sabrina.
Sorry.
She's really yawning a lot. Yeah, she took a
Yeah.
test today. Do you remember in the beginning when I talked about like the elements, like the fire, air, earth, and water, and how the father of medicine, Hippocrates, he used to use that framework for people to get better. So he used to use the elements because back in the day, if you think about how people, they didn't have all of this technology,
Mhm.
right? So they used really foundational elements, which are the elements, to how to come back to a sense of balance, how to come back to a sense of homeostasis to get better. When you feel sick, he would use the elements, right? And it's also a way to really understand like our personality. Remember, we talked about that. You have a lot of ambition, you have a lot of energy. You know that you naturally have a lot of fire in you, right? So when you think about in terms of money, when you think about earth, it's about building a savings and it's about having the structure and like the safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be like you building a savings, right? Money wise, and us feeling secure in our money and also having the security within having our basic needs met, having food, shelter, and water,
Mhm.
right? So just thinking about that, that's earth. Fire would be like all the stuff that we are inspired by. Perhaps we use the money in a way that we are using it to whatever inspires you. It's different. For me, it would be shopping. You know what I mean? For you, it's probably shopping too. For other people, it could be going on vacations. So something like that. So I want you to think about money that way. Fire. Air would be like how you use it for your learning
Mhm.
and also for your socialization. Like, so even if you are going out to coffee with somebody, you're socializing.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're meeting your needs that way. So air is like social. And then water would be more of like how you can use your money in a way that feels like you are nurturing your self care. So it could even be like through you feeling like you give the money through church, like circulation in that way. Or for me, it would be like for me going to a meditation class. So I want you to think about it in that way and how you like to spend your money. And then also, when you start to learn about it that way, it's going to support you in understanding your distribution of what you have more of. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's going to be the assignment for everybody next week before we jump into and we talk more
Mhm.
about investing, because I think it'll also support you in perhaps what kind of thing you want to invest in.
Perfect.
What do you think about that?
I think it's good.
Cool. You want to leave the audience with anything? Anything like super enlightening? Any hints about your personality of how you spend money?
It's all gone.
What? It's all gone? Why is it all gone? What? Oh my goodness. Why is it all gone?
Because I go to HB Woodlawn.
Oh, yes. Okay. Tell the audience more because,
I can leave school to get food. And I go out with my friends a lot.
okay. So guess what? Now you know that you probably spent a little bit too much money on the air side,
Yeah.
right? And we got to cut back on that. Beautiful.
Darn it.
Darn it. Darn it. All right. Well, I've perhaps spent a lot of money on the fireside where I was just in Paris,
Mm-mm.
and did a little bit more shopping. But these are always, again, just good examples of keeping ourselves accountable to stay in balance. This is how to build generational wealth. So that's what we have for you today. Thanks a lot for joining us. Please let us know if you missed stuff. And any topics that you want us to talk about generational wealth with, including in day trading. That's what we have for you today. Bye for now.